Maloriak is one of the later bosses in Blackwing Descent and is generally done as a 3rd or 4th hard mode kill for 10-man guilds. This guide assumes you are familiar with all the mechanics of normal mode, which can be found at our site availedguild.com. As with other bosses in Blackwing Descent, Nefarian looms over this fight and adds one new element to the fight, the Dark Vial phase. This phase of the encounter is always the first phase you'll deal with. During it, Maloriak will chaincast an ability called Engulfing Darkness, dealing frontal cone damage to the tank and reducing healing received by 100%. It has a 3-second cast which is slowed by Curse of Tongues, and this window of time is the only time you'll get to heal the tank during the Black Vial phase. Immediately after throwing the vial into the cauldron, Maloriak will spawn 5 vial swills. These adds have 1.8 million hit points and melee for weak damage. What makes these adds dangerous is the black puddles they will continuously throw out during the fight. These deal massive damage and need to be removed out of immediately, unless you're a healer about to finish a cast on a tank. It is particularly important that melee stay spread out around the swills as they damage them, to avoid multiple puddles landing on the same players. The off-tank should kite these adds around the edge of the room to get them out of the puddles. As they are being kited, these adds need to be AoE'd down as quickly as possible. It's important that all of them die before the frost or fire phase, so that your OT can prepare to pick up the aberrations. The phase is just shy of 2 minutes. During this phase, Arcane Storm and Release aberrations will not be cast, so all of your DPS can focus on taking the swills down. After the Dark phase, the fight's pattern continues like normal mode. 3 sets of aberrations need to be released before the first green phase to avoid hitting the enrage timer. While tanking 3 adds is doable, more than 3 adds on your off-tank will require him to use cooldowns or kite effectively to avoid taking excessive melee damage. Because of this, we suggest using a kite strat. Hunters make this a lot easier, though a warrior tank using Piercing Howl is also a viable option. Have your off-tank kite back and forth in the back of the room, avoiding melees as much as possible while still doing enough damage to maintain threat. The Frost Tombs hit significantly harder in hard mode, and the player who is tombed will need to be healed up before the tomb is broken or they will be killed. This is not overly difficult, however, and the Frost phase is generally the easiest phase to handle. A recent hotfix has made it so tanks are no longer able to be Frost Tombed, significantly reducing the difficulty of this fight. The Fire phase is much more difficult. Consuming Flames, the debuff he casts on members of the raid, is now much more dangerous. It's important that no one but your main tank ever takes the fire damage while this is up, and if your main tank has it, he should use his cooldowns the moment the breath is coming. The Fire Breath now deals very large damage. It's important that at least 8 members of your raid get hit, with your off-tank and the person with the debuff being the only 2 who should avoid it. Raid cooldowns should be used here. Note that Maloriak will sometimes cast 3 breaths instead of just 2. This is completely random, so make sure you heal up your raid in case a 3rd breath is coming. Once the green phase begins, every player needs to switch to the aberrations and take them down quickly. You only get 15 seconds before the aberrations start taking reduced damage again, so make sure you're in position ahead of time. Note that the aberrations aren't the only ones who take twice the damage. Your main tank will be getting hit very hard until the debuff fades, so make sure he gets plenty of heals. After the aberrations go down, you have nearly a minute before the dark phase begins again. This is your only time during the fight in which healers can regen, so make use of it. This fight is not a DPS race on Maloriak. Most groups will find they are approaching phase 2 before they have finished the second green phase. It's imperative that you finish off the second set of aberrations before you push Maloriak over, or the adds in phase 2 will quickly kill your off-tank. At 30%, Maloriak will immediately cast Release All. So long as you have handled the aberrations properly, only 2 adds will spawn. The primed subjects on Heroic hit for moderate damage and are still immune to taunt. The off-tanks need to pick these up rapidly. 5 seconds after spawning, they will begin to spam Fixate, forcing them to attack their current target. At this point, nothing your off-tank can do will permanently cause them to switch targets. Acid Nova hits much harder on Heroic, and players should be sure to use personal cooldowns to help the healer's mana. The real danger in Phase 2, however, are the Flame Jets and Frost Orbs. Flame Jets is cast on the main tank consistently throughout the fight. The tank can avoid being hit by these by rapidly strafing left or right when the cast begins. It's important that Maloriak be faced away from the raid, as the fire ticks exceptionally hard on Heroic. Frost Orbs spawn throughout the raid in Phase 2. You can see these coming in advance via a blue circle placed at your feet. If hit, these will deal moderate damage and throw you across the room, often leading to your death. These float around the room throughout Phase 2, requiring players to be aware of their positioning constantly. Overall, most guilds find the enrage timer is of no concern. If you have the DPS to take down the swills in Phase 1, you'll manage the DPS for Maloriak in Phase 2 just fine. What's important is making sure you avoid frost orbs and that your tank dodges flame jets. Good luck, and check out availguild.com for information about the guild and more guides.